Hi, I'm Grant Bartley. Is your mind your brain? No, of course it isn't. Well, why not? I'm using the definition that your mind is your awareness of all the experiences you have. In short, a mind is whatever has experience. Elaborating on this, a mind is what directly experiences sensations, thinks thoughts, entertains beliefs, and feels emotions, among other contents. The human mind and the human brain are intimately connected. Findings so far lead us to the working assumption that everything that happens in or to a person's mind has a detailed physical correlate in the activity of their brain. So what's the relationship between mind and brain? The mind is created by the brain, as I'd put it, but your mind is not your brain. Indeed, my mind is nothing like my brain. I want to demonstrate that your mind and your brain are not only different things, they're fundamentally different types of thing. We're taking the meaning or referent of the word mind to be the experiencer of conscious content. Someone jumping to conclusions might respond, well, what has experience is the brain, isn't it? Doesn't the brain create experiences? So isn't the brain the mind? Well, are our experiences identical to the brain activity that creates them? No. In fact, they're nothing like them, as I said. To the same extent, then, brains are a completely different type of thing from the minds their activity creates. It's important to get a way of speaking about the nature of mind and brain, and of the mind's relationship to the brain correct, or at least going in the right direction. Misdescribe these foundation stones of metaphysics. We fundamentally misdescribe reality by establishing a foundation of thought in the wrong place at the wrong angle. This is precisely what materialism has done. It has established a fundamental error at the core of Western thought. Allow me then to argue that the only coherent way of speaking about the mind and the brain is to say that the mental and the material aspects are two different types of things. This will be a different argument to the one I present in my video, Why the Mind is Not the Brain. The working assumption of neuroscience is that the activity of the brain creates or channels all the elements of all the experiences and thoughts we experience and think, including the experiences and thoughts you're experiencing and thinking now. Some philosophers might, for instance, say that the mind just is the brain in action. And they might justify this identification with the misleading statement that neuroscience has shown them to be the same thing. However, in particular, neuroscience hasn't shown us that the mind is a physical thing, only that the mind has been produced by a physical thing. But so what about that? What has been produced is not itself physical. Well, why not? First, we automatically make a distinction in our minds and reactions between our experiences and a world external to those experiences. I see the table, and even while I'm seeing it, I assume that my seeing of the table and the table that I'm seeing are distinct, that there is a separate real table that my experience of the table is an experience of. Or, I feel the coldness of the snow, and I assume the snow is the cause of my feeling the cold, but is distinct from the feeling itself. We both automatically and deliberately distinguish our sensational experiences from the causes of those experiences. All but the most committed solipsist must make a conceptual distinction between their experience of the world and the world they experience. if only from the inescapable fact that not everything we experience in the world behaves the way we would will it to. Much of what we experience changes or operates in ways completely independent of even our most powerful desires. Instead, things in our experience of the external world behave in idiosyncratic ways, not mentally controllable by us. If you don't believe that, watch the news. Perhaps this independence from the power of our own minds is what convinces us that at almost every moment of our experience, these things we collectively call the world exist external to our mind. The cause of our experience is external to our experiences. Philosophers call the world of everyday experience the external world, just because it's taken to be external to our minds. And it's taken to be external to our minds because of its independence from our mind's control. This is in contrast to our thoughts, for instance, whose flow we can control to a degree, and so which we know are in our minds. The story of the external world doesn't end here. We don't just experience random sensation after random sensation with no connection between one experience and the next. The external world is not a random carnival of phenomena, a chaotic cosmos of nonsensical, disordered sensations. The experiences we have of this world have a somewhat predictable manner of changing, rather, indicating that the world generating our experiences is to an extent ordered. For example, things move and change in regular ways. The ball bounces and we can follow its bounce with our eyes or mind. Or the cat pounces and we can follow its pounce. Mind external objects also behave as if they continue to exist when we're not experiencing them. For example, the car disappears behind the bus, then quickly reappears. This gives us further reason to believe that the causes of these experiences are independent of our experience. Under further investigation, we find these objects have characteristic properties, such as solidity or weight, and taking up space in particular ways known as shape. Tables are table-shaped, and cats are cat-shaped, and so on. And unlike our own thoughts and imagining, these external world objects can be experienced by many people. This is precisely what is meant when it's said that the external world objects behave or exist in an objective way. Naturally, we have a category for the objects that behave in these characteristic external ways, and which have these characteristic sorts of properties. We call them physical or material properties, and we call the objects which have them physical or material objects. Thus, the world we experience as external to and independent of our minds, but causing our experience in these distinct ways, we call the physical or material world. Notice, however, how we arrived at what physical means. We surmised from the character of our experiences that there is a world which exists independently of those experiences, which we would therefore say is external to our experiences and minds. Our experiences of the external world are that it behaves in regular ways and exhibits categorizable sets of characteristics, and we have called these ways and characteristics physical or material ways and characteristics. On this scheme, the brain is indubitably a physical object, isn't it? Having well-documented physical characteristics. It has a shape, meaning it takes up physical, that is to say, experienced external world, space, in a particular way. It also has weight, and as a virtually solid object, your brain has a feelable texture and consistency. It's like porridge, apparently. Moreover, the brain behaves according to characteristically physical laws. Not only on the large scale, but significantly, our neurons display detailed physical behaviors, such as conveying electrical pulses along their lengths through the movement of ions, or shunting reactive chemicals from cell to cell. So the brain is clearly a physical object, having, as it does, characteristically physical properties. However, the question we're addressing now is, are our experiences physical things? And from what I've just said, the answer to this question is emphatically no. Minds are not physical things. What's more, minds cannot be physical things by definition. Rather, minds are mental and not physical in nature. Why does that follow? Reconsider what I just argued. We got our concept of the physical world by inferring from the nature of our experiences a world that causes these experiences and which is distinct from them. So what physical means is defined through its distinction from our mental contents. However, if what is meant by physical is defined as being distinct from experience, it cannot be coherent to say that experiences themselves are physical. How could experiences be defined in terms of being distinct from experience? They can't. You might think I'm equivocating. The physical world I experience is defined as being distinct from my experiences of it. Sure, you can follow that. Why should this mean that experiences themselves aren't physical? After all, we're not saying that our experiences are the physical things they're experiences of. Rather, the physical objects the experiences themselves would be some part of the electrical and chemical activity between experience-relevant neurons and synapses, plus X, to include any as yet unknown physical aspects. We all agree the brain is a physical object. So the brain can be defined in the same way as other physical objects, as having physical characteristics such as weight, solidity, etc. This applies on the neuronal and synaptic activity level too. The electrical and chemical activities going on in the brain at the interneuronal level display their own sets of physical properties. So, if we want to ask whether the mind itself is also physical, we might ask whether sensations and other experiences display physical properties themselves. And the answer is clearly no, they don't. Experiences themselves don't have physical properties, only mental ones. These are all the properties experiences have in being contents to aware minds, such as what it's like to see a certain shade of red or to understand an idea. These properties are nothing like physical properties such as weight. Indeed, mental properties sometimes contradict physical properties. For instance, physical things extend across physical space, while thoughts themselves do not extend across physical space. Awareness and its contents are unlike the brain activity that creates them to the point of not having any of the same properties, or even the same substance. Brain activity is made of matter and energy, but the mind is made of experience and thought. Experiences and thoughts exist exactly and only as they are experienced. So experience is the very substance of experience, since there's nothing else to it. We can add, mental contents exist only in minds. Since they display no physical properties, it cannot be the case that sensations and other experiences, and so the mind to which those experiences exist, are physical things. The very concept of physical is whatever displays physical properties and behaviors, whereas the very concept of mental is defined in opposition to that idea, as not displaying physical properties and behaviors, and so as having mental, that is, specifically non-physical, properties and behaviors. Indeed, if you take the distinctly mental properties away from experiences, you're left with nothing. The point is, the way we understand physical implies, as a logical necessity, that experiences are not identical to, but on the contrary, are necessarily distinct from the physical brain that creates them. Sensations and all other types of experiences you have are distinct from any physical thing, such as a brain, because they do not have any physical properties. By extension, the experiencing awareness is distinct from the brain too. So brains and minds must be different things. This argument can be summarized. Physical is not experiential. Experiential is mental. Therefore, not experiential means not mental. Therefore, physical, which is not experiential, is not mental. However, the brain is physical. Therefore, the brain is not mental. Therefore, my mind, is not my brain. QED. Therefore, the mind is not physical, and in particular, the mind is not the brain. I challenge anyone who wants to assert the identity of the mind and the brain to give definitions of both experiences and physical objects in a way that shows that they are the same things. I claim you can't do it, since it's a logical contradiction to identify the mental and physical for the sorts of reasons I've just argued. I would add that making a distinction between the mental and the material worlds is actually a matter of comprehending the meaning of the words. Mental refers to things as they exist experientially, which means as entirely present in or to a mind, whereas material or physical involves the idea of things by definition not existing solely in or to our minds, instead having characteristically physical rather than mental properties and behaviours. So mental things exist to minds, whereas physical things exist outside of our minds. If physical things did exist entirely to minds, they would actually be mental things. Thanks.